a lot of different locations. Often they have CG characters plus set extensions. So there's a wide range of visual effects. We're working on about 1,200 shots. It's a crazy, I guess, Rubik's Cube of choices that we have.
So he cuffs Deadpool, and Deadpool, who's a character who can grow back body parts, the natural.
When he gets shot, he bleeds. When he gets stabbed, he bleeds.
Hilarious, and I love it, because we'd have blood spraying, and we're like, too much? And she's like, no, go for it. We're like, oh. Dead 4 times over. Baby hand coming out. At first we did this little hand, and then we're like, no, let's just make it more translucent and viscousy and just play it up a little bit.
Am I crazy? Or is your hand really small?
We see a couple shots as the hand's going. The best is when he's caressing Al, and she's blind, so she doesn't know what it is.
When will he grow up and see benefits of becoming X-Men?
One of the great challenges in making a film out of a comic book is that you have to represent the physical look of these superheroes.
Colossus, the way he was in the past movies, he's really a guy with shiny skin. But in the comics, he's this 7 or 8 foot tall fucking behemoth of a character. And that's why he's so cool.
It was kind of hard to get used to imagining Colossus. I got to look at the sketches of how they were thinking to make him, so I kind of had to build him in my head and put him next to me.
Especially in the fight scenes in the third act. So we used every trick we could to basically get those pieces to really fit together.
Anytime Colossus appears on camera in this film, there's quite a lot of elements that go into it. We end up shooting the first take generally with Andre, who's sort of our actor stand-in.
He's got this helmet that has a, I don't know what you would call it, like an antenna and a ball on it, and he looks like a Teletubby in it. That was hard though, because you're supposed to look at the ball and not at his face, because his face is supposed to be where the ball is.
Tim really had a vision about what Colossus was for him, so he's a really interesting mashup of 4 different people. Andre was the actor on set.
And then we had one actor whose face was used as the original base model for the look of his face. Then we had another actor whose facial movements were used when Colossus speaks. And then there's the final actor, who is the voiceover actor, who brought Colossus's voice to life.
Just promise.
Yeah, I'll be on the lookout for the next 4 moments.
Digital Domain has a great system called MOVA, which is a facial capture system. You paint on the face, and it creates thousands and thousands of little tracking markers. At that point, you get a piece of geometry that captures the movement and acting of the actor.
Colossus is a known character in the Marvel Universe, and what makes him tricky to handle in the CG world.
Like surface, we also have to do these reflection passes in the environment. Whenever we finish shooting our Colossus motion capture actor, we end up going in and we shoot clean plates, which just allow us to have all the information that we need for when Colossus moves around. And then we also shoot reflective gray balls and reflective silver balls that allows the visual effects artist to understand where all the lighting sources are coming from. And then on top of that, we shoot HDRIs with a still camera. And so we'll go in and they'll set up a still camera and they'll shoot all these panoramic passes at multiple exposures. And those are to have reflection information so that when the visual effects artists put the sort of chrome body onto Colossus, they use that HDRI information along with their reflection passes to get sort of all of that mapping of the environment around him, because he's essentially a giant mirror that moves around. And that allows Jonathan and our sort of VFX team to make this seamless transition into this metallic person that moves like a human and acts like a human, but has this very otherworldly form.
We're using this 3D camera system that we'll have in all of his shots where we can capture all the action that happens around him.
Tim was very specific in the type of metal look that he wanted Colossus to have. So he has fine scratches and just dress marks throughout his entire body.
He's got a lot of like little nicks and scratches. There's a really cool like rainbow effect on his shoulders, the way that metal anodizes and tarnishes. It's just really beautiful when the light rolls over it.
We will make an X-Men of you yet. Wait.
transformation for Deadpool, turning from Wade Wilson into Deadpool. And we didn't want people to think that he was burned and scarred from the fires that were taking place, but it was actually part of the transformation.
For the transformation, the visual effects team then needed to reverse engineer and design a mutating effect that looked like it could become his final look.
Our reference for that was like mush. You could see all the foam coming up from it and getting eaten away, and it's just disgusting.
The mask presented its own set of challenges. Originally, as it was being designed, the hope had been that his eyebrows and facial expressions would in some way was coming together. Everybody realized that with the hard shell that was around his skull area, that there was no way his expressions would show through at all. The team at Weta was available to step in and take on over 250 facial shots of Deadpool.
I'm touching myself tonight.
And just do a marvelous job bringing together the smart-ass portion of his character and his quizzical looks and his angry looks. They really gave nuances to his character that just would not have been there. In our climactic Act 3, our heroes approach a scrapyard to save Wade's girlfriend, and they enter a world that's all scrap metal, dirty, dusty.
They're fighting below, they're fighting up in the deck, and the ship collapses, and it's the big finale moment.
Today we're at Ajax, and it's like a big metal junkyard, and we're about to really get into like all of the action scenes and like when you really see her be a warhead and see that she's not just like an apathetic teenager.
She's the only one that really has found in the movie as something unique and different from our world. Really wanted to look at common military devices for creating explosions and then utilize the components of those to build her effect.
Colossus and Angel Dust is especially complicated because you have a real actor who is fighting a guy who's standing in for the character, and also Gina would have to fight against thin air, basically do a double pass on every piece of action.
I've never done CGI fights before, so this was a whole different animal for me. I pretty much fight a ghost. It feels pretty awkward, but it's kind of like dancing by yourself.
She had to rehearse quite a bit and time out her movements so that he could be replaced with a CG character.
I think the coolest move that I've done, I'm on top of this like 6'8" man's shoulder, just punching down and then flipping. So it's all pretty cool.
We were very blessed with the fact that Gina was capable of doing that. Most actors wouldn't be.
It's all about body language. Whereas I'm a little bit more fluid, this is all just about stance. And so I usually like to see how my stunt double, Michelle, would do it. And then I'm like, okay, take bits and pieces and then like try to make it my own.
Because Angel Dust is involved in these battles, a digital double of her is created to facilitate the process of bringing the action of the CG Colossus together with her live performance.
Your standard favorite Deadpool with two katanas slicing and dicing. Deadpool feels the pain, Ajax doesn't. So there was a nice little battle that they had.
Aside from Ajax being such an interesting character, the physical side of this was a big part of the character. I started in London, training, doing strength and conditioning, so that when we got out here, we would be comfortable and ambidextrous with both of the axes for the final fight.
The flight deck is really the top of that aircraft carrier. We built a little section of the flight deck, and we elaborated that with moving gimbal pieces, which when there's a fight going on, we actually put the actors on a moving piece to give it sort of more of a tipping over sensation.
It's the first time I've had the opportunity to work on that, so we have a huge platform that can drop down in a second to, I think, a 25-degree angle, which feels quite steep when you're up on it, especially when it's raised, 30 foot in the air.
What we've got here is a tilted gimbal set connected with the punch bowl, a special effects track rig.
We're sliding down a platform, and simultaneously I'm climbing into the punch bowl, which is like basically a big glass capsule.
We've got stunts interacting with special effects as well as vis effects with all the green screen surrounding the area. So there's a lot of wire work, swinging around, and safety aspects that are involved in this entire shot.
I die.
With that, and then of course making it totally photoreal. So we really had to do a lot of work to make sure that all tied together.
You gotta have a big finale moment. You know, you got
The throw up to be bagels and coffee. Jonathan, our visual effects supervisor, wanted something more metallic, like nuts and bolts and things like that. So we found a happy compromise with somewhat of a more liquid metal kind of a throw.
It was a real pleasure because he is coming to the director world from the world of animation and visual effects. Tim understands the level of detail and work that goes into every single shot.
This movie was made on a relatively modest budget, but it doesn't feel it because Tim knew how to get the most possible bang from every buck in terms of shooting the action and then rendering it in a computer where necessary.
I'm waiting for the jam to kick in.
We hope that the audience has just entered Deadpool's world and enjoy, even know that a lot of his world.
X-Men type score. The music that I made for Deadpool that you guys will not be hearing is a mix between Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Miami Vice on acid.
The score is done by Junkie XL, who's done everything from working with the biggest pop acts in the world to scores of great movies.
I was approached by Tim Miller, who actually bought one of my earlier records in the 90s when he was still a raver. And he heard that I got into film scoring and he was very keen to meet me. Tim said, I want to play you something. And then they played me the teaser for Comic-Con. And I was completely blown away about what I saw. It's a mix between action and comedy and serious drama, and it just goes back and forth. And I was really surprised, and especially how well they pulled it off. So that's why we started.
He brings this sort of pop culture, high energy, electronica feel to the film that will make it feel very modern.
I was immediately convinced that this character needed something really, really unique, something that you don't hear in films at this point. And my idea was to go back to the 80s and early 90s, where a lot of the reference music in this film also comes from. And I was able to create really comical effects without being funny. Can we try something, Nick? Yeah. At 94, the start of 94, I'd like the basis to drop back to the note that was written originally in the score. The movie is packed with licensed music. There are like good 20 songs in there. So as a traditional composer, you don't have the same real estate to score themes and to develop the themes throughout a movie. And then when you play for just 4 seconds, I gotta stop because there's another joke. So I came up with a very simple riff, which is, if you would play it on a guitar, it's like down, 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 down. It's like a very simple riff. Now that riff is on the melody, and then the bass doubles is an octave lower. So whatever the lower divisi cello was playing is not necessarily at the score. With Vanessa, I have really clear spots in the film where I can introduce a theme between her and Wade at the time when he's not Deadpool yet. And I have enough room to develop that, and it comes back very spot. With Colossus and NTW, for their part of the score, I really rely on what people would describe a typical X-Men movie score. It's a hybrid between modern electronic sounds and fast-moving strings with noble brass lines. These guys are in it for the good. And then Ajax is a guy that went through the same school as Deadpool to become another superhuman, but he has other capacities than Deadpool has. And his sound and his thematics are more modern, clean, cold electronic sounds with a bit of orchestra on top of it. Ajax has a very clear melody that's played in the lower basses, and we swell way stronger in 152, 53.
Everyone thinks it's a full-time job.
We're done, guys. What I really hope is that people walk out of the theater and that they remember a few scenes, that they put an extra smile on their face because the music emphasized what Deadpool as a character is. In the end, we're in the serving industry. We need to make great music, but we need to make the picture greater. And that's why I love this business. So I really hope that some of these people go by the original score. When they hear a track back, it's like, oh, that's the reason why I got a bigger smile than I did normally.
I'm gonna give you of Deadpool is in its differences from the X-Men films, from all other films in the genre that we've seen.
As we've seen superhero movies become so predominant over the last 10, 15 years, the time is right to really kind of take the piss out of it.
Like two hobos fucking in a shoe filled with piss. I can go all day.
This was always meant to be an edgy film, and maybe during a time when everybody else was making an unnecessary bet. But I think now the genre of superhero and comic book films is wider, and it feels like maybe it's time to do a film like this that sort of pushes those boundaries out a little further.
Unconventional and so unpredictable. It's just so exciting in terms of where he could pop up and the things that he could be.
The tone is so unique. There's a lot more stories to tell and a lot more characters within the Deadpool canon that we can put on screen. The hope is that it's the first of many Deadpool movies.
At the end of the day, we occupy a space that no other comic book movie has or can. Fourth wall breaking, pop culture references, hyper violence mixed with hyper comedy.
Is it sexist to hit you? Is it more sexist to not hit you? I mean, the line gets real blurry.
It's a simple character to kind of figure out quite quickly. That makes him interesting to me, you know.
You bet on me to die. Motherfucker. Some friend you are. Well, joke's on you. I'm gonna live to 102, then die, like the city of Detroit.
I'm sorry. I wanted to win money.
And cut.
Deadpool is all about this character, Weasel. He's got glasses, but he's still really handsome, and you can tell he's sort of a pussy magnet, but more for cats. He's just a really caring, sweet guy. And Deadpool goes through some sort of something where he goes from Wade Wilson into this person that can't die. And this really affects Weasel. When we watch Weasel go through that roller coaster of emotions, what does this mean to him?
What the shit?
Hear the music.
Deadpool is a guy that sort of walks that tightrope between good and bad.
Some kinds of anger can't be managed.
His morale on the side of the good guys, but not always.
He's unlike any other character that you're going to see in the X-Men universe, or frankly, any comic book universe.
Deadpool is tonally, the vibe, just a completely different kind of movie.
He's a gift to every writer who writes him because his voice is unique and very, very entertaining.
And offensive to pretty much everybody across the board.
She had to be blind because of the way he felt about it.
Leslie Uggams, who is a phenomenal actress and singer and Broadway performer, and it was amazing how much she committed to playing this really kind of insane character.
God, I miss cocaine. She's old, but she's feisty. Oomph. And she doesn't let her blindness stop her from doing things. It's like Abbott and Costello, you know, their relationship. They're perfect together.
Hashtag drive-by.
She can't see him, but she seems to know who he is better than just about anybody in the whole film. And she has no compunctions of really just sticking a dagger inside a cricket of the movie. He's the conscience that is on Wade's shoulder, sticks from the comics.
The relationship between Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead is like a waiter and his trainee. Colossus is teaching NTW the ropes, and she's this typical teenager who's just so unhappy to be here.
Girls tend to be too cool for school, and so we thought it would be really fun to make Negasonic Teenage Warhead super cool and unimpressed by anyone and anything. And that bothers Deadpool. It gets under his skin. The fact that he can't impress her, A, that he can't make her laugh, B, and that she's just not...
Mansion not only has no interest in joining the X-Men, but takes great pleasure in telling Colossus all the reasons why they're ridiculous and kind of embarrassing. Comes to try to...
Your secret, Wade. This workshop doesn't make superheroes. We make super slaves. What the fuck is wrong with you?
He himself went through this same process at one point. They took any good that was left in him and they beat it out of him through this torture process.
The way that I've approached Ajax has always been more to do with an absence of conscience rather than he's inherently evil, rather than there's anything bad about him.
He really took this role incredibly seriously. What's amazing about him, he's actually one of the sweetest, nicest guys you'll ever meet. But
he's been such a fun character to play. He really has, and I live my life very positive and peaceful, and it's been...
And somebody who was visually spectacular, and I simply wanted a strong female presence in the film. We needed an opponent for Colossus, and I thought she had the right power set, and she was a cool character, so we rolled her in there.
Aren't you a little strong for a lady? I'm calling Wang.
She kind of gets picked up by Ajax, and he teaches her how to live, how to function, and he becomes just basically everything to her.
Gina brings this really unique physicality to the role and menace, and is a really formidable adversary.
Interestingly, in real life, Gina is very delicate and shy, not at all like the persona that you see.
This may change my whole career.
I think it will.
My only problem is, after that, I never did get to see Chastity. I mean, I'm heartbroken. Here I'm yelling to everybody, let's give it up for Chastity. And I hope I wasn't lying. I hope she was worth giving it up for.
Ladies and gentlemen, a picture wrap on Stan Lee. Everyone, Stan Lee.
And for everybody in this film, they went into the movie knowing it was a superhero movie and knowing that it was based on a comic book. A lot of the characters in comics and in superhero movies take themselves very seriously. And Deadpool is almost the opposite.
Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
And so for the actors, it was this opportunity to play, to be mischievous, to be R-rated, to be dirty.
Or stay. We could next level this shit.
To poke fun at all the things that traditionally these movies take very seriously. So it was just really fun to watch.
We should cut. The viaduct sequence was one of the original pieces that was done for the test footage.
Really, the reason why it was done was to illustrate a different kind of filmmaking. When I first threw that idea out there to Fox, which was, hey, we can make a big budget feeling superhero movie by this methodology, they said, oh, really? Show us.
It's easier to convince clients when you have something that looks really great. So basically, it's a really good-looking previs, and we have like final mocap with all the stunts and all the acting from all the actors. And we shoot a lot of cameras, edit it together, put some sound effects, music, temp, of course. But basically, once this comes out of our department, you can already see whether or not it's going to work.
That original sequence I did with Tim 3.5 years ago. I coordinated that sequence and did the performance capture for Deadpool in that.
We actually got to have Ryan do all the acting part.
Excusez por favor. Ow, ow. When we did it, it wasn't all that common to do fully CG shots. Now, it's not so special. They do it all the time because of the rate that visual effects is advancing.
Test footage was such a tone setter, and it really did allow us to understand what we were trying to do.
The sequence was called 16 bullets, but due to budgetary constraints, it's now 12 bullets. There's a frequent jest on set that it's going to be 1 bullet before we're done, but no. In your typical superhero film, the superhero is always prepared. He's a good guy, he thinks ahead of everybody else, he's smarter, faster, is the whole structure of this fight.
He's trained to kill people and not be killed, but now he's got this unique thing to him where he regenerates, he can't die. So it's kind of like all bets are off.
It's kind of spliced and fractured throughout the film. So we begin on it, and then we come back to it later, and then we come back to it again. So we need a lot of meat on the bone to get a piece like that done.
12 Bullets was a really cool sequence. That was another one we ended up prevising out and doing that here at Blur.
The previs has been an incredible tool. Tim's sequences are what ended up getting the movie made. And so it's just amazing to sort of have this incredibly high quality reference material that we were able to use as a guide as we were sort of making the film.
Tim is a big visual person. He's a performance capture director. So what he'll do is he'll go into the volume and we'll do all our previs full on with performance, not animatics, but actual performers doing it. So he has a realistic interpretation of what he's going to do here on the day.
You go and you do mocap, and it's really theater in the round. I'm just worried that people are moving correctly in relation to each other, that the timing is right, that it's natural in the way they get from point A to point B.
The old sequence, which was basically this frozen moment, car starts tumbling, we end up with exactly the same pose.
The teaser piece we did was all CG. This is going to be a mix, probably mostly live action.
I love practical shooting. I mean, nobody likes a green screen. It's awful. So we've done as much practical as we possibly can.
To make the freeway sequence, we had to shut down the biggest artery of the biggest freeway in Vancouver. It's actually the bridge that leads from essentially the suburbs into the city. And they gave it to us for a few hours a day where they would shut down one whole side of it.
I think for a while I was public enemy #1 because they didn't say Deadpool shut down traffic. They just said Ryan Reynolds has shut down traffic in Vancouver, which sort of sucked for me.
We wanted it to feel interactive. We wanted it to feel like they were in a real location and not just in a stage. There is something about interacting with the sunlight, with real air. I don't think you can ever completely fake.
This sequence requires a lot of timing, a lot of rehearsal, 30 stunt personnel. So that on top of the other crew that's required for this sequence, special effects, explosion, visual effects.
I think we were there for at least 2.5 weeks just shooting that one particular action sequence in 3 separate parts.
Trying to execute those sequences in the time frame that we have has been very difficult because we're only here from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. and we have to be off this viaduct by 3 p.m.
Usually when you're making a movie, even if you're on location, you can leave some things standing on that set. If we left things standing on that set, they'd get run over by a truck.
Wrap it up, guys. Wrap it up. Good work today, good hustle.
We had to have a prep strategy so that when we wrap out, we can execute our wrap out within a 15-minute time frame. And getting all of this stuff wrapped out in 15 minutes takes quite a bit of planning.
We've tied in with what Tim's done for the previs, which mapped out all the action for us. So we follow those beats, which include bullet hits in the cars and body hits, blood hits on stunt guys, and infrastructure for water for wet down, and a lot of smoking cars. When we do a bullet hit, it's a small explosive with a blood bag that we put underneath the wardrobe, and then we cut the wardrobe a little bit so it comes through. And we have a firing system attached to that explosive. And I watch the stunt guy's action and time out his action so it all works together. 3, 2, stupid! Worth it.
Right now, it's in the previs, he's sliding, but we're gonna have.
I'll tell you in a minute.
It's a bounce and hit, yeah.
The previs required extensive, highly trained acrobatic movement plus martial arts skills from our Deadpool doubles. Fortunately, I was able to find 2 of them that filled that role, so we can interchange them as needed.
Alex and Adrian are 2 guys that have been there from the beginning and really learned the character and understood how he walks and moves, and they were incredible. Alex is a guy that just basically defies gravity in every way. He can do things that I just didn't think were humanly possible.
Ryan is doing quite a bit of stunt work in the sequence. He's doing a lot of the physical comedy that goes along with the sequence as well. So that's all him. We only bring in our double for a few things that might be outside of his training.
Hopefully the audience won't be able to tell when there's a double or not. I said, you guys have to watch him, how he moves, how he acts, and incorporate that into your physicality. So in between the acting beats, you can incorporate that type of movement with the action sequences so that we'll make it as seamless as possible.
3, 2, 1, go! And cut.
These cameras, we can shoulder here. No, I think we take that slider again and go whack. When we shot the freeway sequence, it was really important to us to keep the cameras moving in these super dynamic ways. And one of the ways that we achieved that was through long Steadicam moves, handheld shots, using a motorcycle to chase other motorcycles. Chaos that was happening. Okay, this thing's ready.
Capturing it the right way with our camera bike took a lot of planning because of the weaving in and out of these very tight vehicles took a very skilled rider.
There's this genius motorcycle stunt rider named Regis that we brought up from New Orleans who's phenomenal on a bike and could keep up with anybody. So he was able to chase our stunt bike riders on this motorcycle rig where we were able to get super, super close.
Now in the business, the bike is actually 100% electric, so there's no motor vibration. It offers a very smooth and stable ride.
We shot that motorcycle sequence on a stabilized head, so no matter how bumpy the roads get. No matter what happens to the bike itself, the camera has this sort of fluid, precise movement to it.
I had rehearsed with them a couple days before so that they can get their timing in sync, so that we're making sure that all the action is tied in with Deadpool's movement, because there's running and chasing with the motorcycle, as well as firing and throwing of katanas.
Himself as he's running and firing guns. The motorcycle itself is the ZF9, but to make it camera worthy, we put a lot of external components on it and a lot of R&D in it. This is far from riding a normal motorcycle, with upwards of 80 to 100 pounds on the rear end and camera, and then offset with another 60 or so pounds in batteries. It's a very big vehicle to control.
A camera that can shoot up to 1,800 frames a second. So for instance, there's shots of the motorcycle tires peeling out.
We did shoot the thugs and Deadpool's character in an actual SUV that was dismantled door by door as necessary over green screen so that the actors' performances were live action. The tricky part happens in post when the CG environments that are spinning by outside that car needed to be developed to match into the live action portion.
Coming from VFX, I'm very comfortable with completely computer-generated characters, and so I have no problem with mixing back and forth.
When you see someone getting thrown across a large space, oftentimes it'll be a digital double. So what we do is we go in and we scan all of our key players and do these full high-tech 3D body scans so we can create them as digital doubles and have them move through spaces.
As he counts down his 12 remaining bullets, looking for the Ajax character, we begin by flipping him out of his SUV using CG elements. Those are actually CG Deadpools. It was captured on a mocap stage, and then the mocap data was applied to the CG model.
I think the reason it feels fake without recognizing that it's fake.
It's really kind of a beautiful blend of partnerships between different departments so that no one will be able to tell what is.
The stylization of the film is all about the character Deadpool. He has a skewed view on reality, but it's not affecting the way other people view reality.
He builds the suit for the first time, puts the fucking character.
Tell me where your fucking boss is, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes!
Deadpool costume is something that is vitally important to this character. I mean, it's one of the most recognizable superhero costumes.
The Deadpool look in the comics is very gritty and visceral. We researched all the various designs of Deadpool. Some of the costume designs are way too simple, some that are just way over the top.
And having the authenticity and the fine detail was crucial.
We had about 10 weeks to create the suit from scratch, and that includes finalizing the design, making all the choices for fabric and color and details, all the layering of the suit. And then we sculpt in clay and or 3D model on the computer. Then you have to make molds and cast parts and do lots of samples to get everything looking right. And then, of course, fabricating the costume itself.
There was a sort of dual process happening, which was on the one hand, we were building this super cool red superhero suit. On the other hand, we were making it look dirtier, uglier, the opposite of what you would normally do with a superhero costume.
Finding the right red, that was pretty huge. It's tricky because what looks good in person is not always right for camera. And because we're in the day of social media and fans taking pictures everywhere, it has to look good on set. For post-production, if the color's muted already, it's very difficult to make it bright enough. So we had to come up with something in between that worked really good. We dye the fabric a certain color. for like the hard hits and the flying and that kind of thing. And another one who did gymnastics and parkour, flipping. So they each had their specific suits. For the stunts, the suit has contained within it pouches, basically, so you can put pads in specific areas, protection for your elbows and knees and that kind of thing.
We took great pains to conceal it from the world so that we could unveil it with an incredible bearskin rug photo.
I hope the fans go in and they're blown away by how cool and aggressive the suit is, and then I hope they forget about it and just watch the movie and enjoy it.
Hideously deformed.
A disfigured version of Wade was hugely important and really hard to nail.
Dead ripping skin and huge holes in his head. And of course, we had the fine line to walk where we had Ryan Reynolds.
Is that someone lost his shot? I'm coming, King.
What have you done to me? You need to make him disfigured enough that it motivates the whole back half of the movie where he's just trying to actually get his face back in many ways. But you don't want to make him so grotesque that the audience can't look at him. So it's this really tricky task.
We did multiple full makeup tests and designs trying to come up with not just a guy who's scarred or disfigured, but a character, because you want to create something that fans are going to want to make themselves up as, a poster on the wall or makeup kit for Halloween.
When he's first transformed, it's at its worst and bubbling and disgusting, and then
it's this raw, kind of enhanced version of what he will then later become, which is great, fun, because it gives us a transition.
I am sorry, you are haunting. Your face is the stuff of nightmares. Like a testicle with teeth.
It's a series of silicone prosthetics to retain a lot of Ryan. It's a very thin prosthetic. There's like 10 on his head. And I wanted to keep a very translucent quality to it. So there's a lot of light really affects it, just like skin, where you could maybe see the muscles and blood and the tissue underneath.
Oh, it feels super weird what you just did there.
When Ryan is in the Deadpool makeup, he comes in and the first thing we do is glue all his hair down and we put like a little cap on him to cover like the bulk of his hair on top. And then what I do is I paint an entire, almost like a musculature and skull structure on his own skin, because every little detail that I put underneath shows through to the surface. And I have a team of guys helping me hours ahead of time, painting all these pieces to make them look really amazing. And then when we put them on Ryan, 90% of the job is done. And you're just kind of gluing it all on, and then you kind of tie it all together just to get him into his head. It's like a 3-hour process. When you get into the full body, you're talking about like 7 hours. It's a long process. Luckily, we don't have to do it too many times. Our rating is it gives you a little bit more freedom. You don't have to really hold back, and you can show what needs to be shown. I want Tim to be happy. I want Ryan to be happy. But you want the fans who love this stuff. I want to hear them go like, wow, that's really cool.
For a second there, it felt
a specific rule about what
he sees the world and the way he speaks about the world.
Tim had some strong ideas about how he wanted to see Deadpool's world, and he wanted to stay away from the usual superhero comics where they've always been kind of slick and glossy and hyper-tech and very hyper-stylized.
In our initial discussions, Tim and I said that it was very important that it felt like this world that Deadpool lives in is this sort of grimy, overcast environment.
Instead of having to build these really big elaborate sets, we just sort of went into the downtrodden, industrial, gritty parts of Vancouver and made it sort of fit the story that we're trying to tell.
When it comes time to licking wounds, there's no place like home.
Deadpool's apartment should be on Hoarders, because he's got everything in there.
Deadpool's lair was interesting. It was an extension of his character. He had to kind of represent who he was, what kind of went on in his mind and his psyche, and kind of represent his kind of dual nature.
It's a little bit like Wade himself. It's overcrowded with tchotchkes, almost like his brain exploded onto the walls.
I would maybe describe it as crack house chic.
Which is like a really cool little like apartment shithole somewhere. It's like a lot of like old WWE characters showing up here and there. A lot of guns, a lot of ammo. It's a pretty cool set.
I have trouble with IKEA furniture trying to put it together, because you always wind up with either 3 screws that, why do I have 3 screws? I'm supposed to use all these screws, or you
World.
The drinks are not on Wade. Use the money for sex, not for friendship.
Smoke is actually a very difficult location. We were trying to find a traditional dive bar, biker hangout, and we had a hard time in Vancouver trying to find that kind of place. So we ended up finding kind of a modern, hip joint that we really had to take down a few notches.
Is the quote-unquote hospital that Wade ends up in when he's dying of cancer.
Tim was not interested in doing the high-tech scientific laboratory. He thought this would be kind of a rogue operation. It'd be something that was ad hoc and put together from bits and pieces. So these guys would have found a abandoned warehouse somewhere with no electricity and brought what they needed to make it work. This is the kind of place you wouldn't want to go for any kind of health care.
It's so funny, everybody walks on set and is like, wow, it's really gloomy in there. And I walk on set, me and Ed, we're like, oh, this is our home.
There's the strip club. Of course there's a strip club, which was an amazing day. It was just a bunch of nude girls all day long walking around. They're really not shy.
For the first time really on this film, I'm very happy.
The fun thing about it was after scouting the location, Tim thought, well, why don't I just keep it as it is? So this actually is the real location used with its real name, with the actual bartender and the actual girls.
The scrapyard where a huge battle takes place.
In the script, it was described as a shipwrecking yard. Tim drew inspiration from the shipbreakers in Malaysia, and he went something very big in scale. We had a hard time finding an actual location that had all the elements that Tim wanted. So we ended up finding a lifting yard that we end up bringing all our own scrap to. What we end up doing is I'm bringing 30 truckloads of scrap, boats and planes and helicopters and buses, and we end up creatively organizing them, trying to build them up and make it look like an actual junkyard.
There's a realism I think helps differentiate the film from maybe more sort of poetic, stylized versions of superheroes.
I want it to be believable. I want people to feel like they're watching a real story. To me, that allows me as a viewer to identify with the characters in the film. And I think that's the way this movie is handled.
I die.
It's very nice to see you. Schwarzenegger.
You guys looking for the golden child? 1980s Eddie Murphy movie. Nobody saw it? No?
Gun.
You made me ask twice. Is the mask muffling my voice?
I'm gonna want to move our relationship completely to text and phone calls. No FaceTime, no time around that face. Your head looks like some sort of crystal that you would see at a 2-bit psychic. Can I touch it? I know I'm 35 years too old for you, but how do I look? You look like somebody turned your face inside out and then just left it like that, but then you got in a house fire. God, you look like a house fire was in another house fire. Wade, you look like a trash can full of shit was placed on your shoulders and then you were in a train fire.
My stuntman's about to fuck you up.
Get Gina back. Fuck Bandu.
Fuck him?
No!
Oh, not literally.
What'd you expect? Weapon X, you squirmy little pig.
That's a good question.
Meet new and exciting people and then...
Killing them. Yeah, I've seen your Instagram. You still don't follow me. Big weasel guns?
I can't do this. That's the exit.
And get a little brighter. I didn't like the challenge. Think leprechaun. That's what I said. Leprechaun.
What? Let's go.
Fuck you, Tim Miller.
This is gonna be really slow. I feel like we've all had quite enough. You look like Shrek took a shit on your neck. You look like the inside of other people's assholes.
This is the least confusing erection I've ever had.
Oh, shit.
The drinks are not on Wade. Use the money for sex, not for friendship.
One right at the end.
Fuck! I can't get out. My old boyfriend, he's dead.
Yeah.
Oops.
I know, right? Sweet suit. It's made from over 9,000 individually wrapped Jewish toffees. I really don't know what I'm saying right now. Hold on.
Where's my baby boy? What happened to my little boy, my beautiful baby boy?
You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run.
Deadpool.
Yeah, that's right. I can't wait to join the gang. Can't wait to give the Beast a nice little belly rub. It's gonna be great. Yeah, I can't wait to move in. Who doesn't love rich mahogany?
Seriously, it's called the X-Men. I mean, there are women here, right? It's very sexist.
I know, right?
Put the little man down.
Thank you, lesbian commander.
We have everything we need now. Thank you.
You don't have everything you need. You're missing black hats, 1980s burglars. Tell the rest of the trench coat mafia that they look better in a trench coat than the two of you. He looks like that guy from Lord of the Rings if he had gotten cancer. You're the size of Gollum, but with worse taste in fashion.
Sputnik! Let's fucking go! Andale, you big silver sex toy! You tampon-chewing, glistening communist fuck! Let's go! Dr. Phil can wait! You can watch the Matthew McConaughey Lincoln commercials later, you communist fuck!
Watch your hair on the way out, sweetie. It's low clearance. Yeah, I didn't know Miley Cyrus joined the Cure, huh? If you bring your son back, make sure he has ID. The little one looked like Justin Bieber face fucked Miley Cyrus's haircut.
You're gonna leave me all alone here with ChristianMingle.com? You're gonna leave me all alone here with Kevin Sorbo? You're gonna leave me here all alone with Nikki Sixx? You're gonna leave me all alone here with Busta Rhymes? You're gonna leave me all alone here with Hens? You're gonna leave me all alone here with Chris Angel Mind Freak? Sorry, Gina.
Motherfucker.
Like a young Kirk Cameron.
You're not wearing any pants. Where'd you hide that?
Nowhere. They say, oh, I wouldn't do that. Happy Lyme Disease Awareness Day.
Thank you. Oh, fuck, you're right.
Happy Alanis Morissette Day.
Thanks, baby.
What are you gonna say to her?
God damn it!
No, you should lead with a joke. You know, something tasteful, but it also alludes to her pussy.
You might want to leave the room, because I bet it feels huge in this hand. Or stay. Let's go next level with this shit.
Oh. Easy. Come on, get cut. I don't know.
Hands.